All right, San Diego market update, April 2024. So keep in mind, this is the April update. This is data that is coming from the month of March. That's obviously the most recent data that we have. So let's just get straight into this. We're going to start with the interest rates. It's where everybody seems to have the most number of questions. So let's just get right into this. Here's the 30-year fix. All right, this is the chart, 30-year fix. This is in San Diego County. This is $1,007,000 or less for the loan amount. If the loan amount is over that, we're talking about a jumbo. This is predominantly what you see everybody talking about in the news and the media. So just kind of to refresh you from where we were at the peak back in October of last year, 8.03. In December of last year, we hit 6.62. You're going to see the data. We're going to go through some of the data that you saw last time. We're just going to simply add on to this so you guys will always have perspective. 6.62% in December. The market jumped up. The number of buyers coming in, the sales price, the number of pendings all exploded every single time. We rose back up, dropped back down at the beginning of February. Market jumped again. Interest rates slid back up, dropped back down at the beginning of March. The market exploded again. Back up in the middle of March, right? So this is now the middle of last month. We went back up to 7.11%, back down to 6.91. We came back up. As of today, it dropped back down under 7%. All right. Every time, you're going to see this as we go through data, every time we see one of these drops, when we see one of these valleys, the number of buyers surges, number of offers surges, and it keeps kicking the price up higher and higher. So this is a 30-year fix. Let's take a peek at the jumbo. Back at about a year ago in March, we were at 6.39. The peak was in November of last year, 7.8. January down to 6.86. Market jumped up again. These are loans, remember, that are over that, essentially over $1 million is the loan. Beginning of March, 7.21. We saw it drop back down to 7.04. Market jumped. Slid back up towards the about a week ago, 7.14, dropped back down to 7.06. So that's where we're currently at. Now, I want you to keep in mind about all of these rates. These are averages, right? They don't take into account your debt to income ratio. They don't take into account your credit score. They don't take into account your down payment. This is just in general, this is an average across the country. The lenders that I work with, especially my number one guy at Guaranteed Rate, Mohammed Tawi, is the number one lender with Guaranteed Rate in San Diego, top 10 in the country. He will be with us next week. Those of you that are unhappy he's not here, feel free to put that in the text, and I'll make sure he sees that. But he had to fly out of town. He got invited to conferences that you get invited to when you're as good as he is. So those of you that are on here that are working with him right now, he is still working. I've been texting with him all day. But the rates he's getting, they are substantially better than this. They are substantially better than this. The only way you're going to know what your interest rate is you have to have a conversation with the lender. All right, so this is what we're looking at with the interest rates. What are we looking at going forward? All right, again, the odds that we talked about last month, these are Vegas odds, all right? So the chance that we're going to see a rate cut in May after the meeting, just about 0%. Not going to happen, all right? The percent chance that it's going to happen in June, that actually has gone up. It was at 55%. It jumped up to about 70%. So we're going to see that first rate cut most likely happening in the month of June. We're looking at the Consumer Price Index. We're looking at the PPE. We're looking at job data when it's coming in. When we have bad data, meaning it's bad for the economy, that is good for you, the home buyer, because that's going to bring interest rates down. Kind of interesting in that regard, rooting for a bad report because it makes your life better. The experts, so this is talking about Mortgage Bankers of America. It's talking about Freddie and Fannie and all the different experts today would say, oh, these guys can like legitimately predict something. They're anywhere from 6.1 to 6.4% by the end of the year. All right, so what that means is in reality, if you're a pretty well-qualified buyer, you're going to be in the fives. All right, so this is where you're at. We're going to take a look at the housing data. We're going to see what does it mean when we go from 6.99 to 6.4. What happens when we go from 6.5 to 6.1? Right, that's the data that I was kind of previewing before of what's been going on with these market statistics as the rates are dropping. So let's go ahead and keep cruising here. If anybody has any questions, feel free to type them into the chat. Taking a quick look, got a couple questions. I'm going to come back to those. Type them in if you guys have questions, like what the heck's going on? Is this sustainable? Whatever. We already have the is this sustainable with the preview of the market here. But let's get into the data. Housing market. All right. This is something that we've been trying to tell everybody since the middle of last year, that as rates come down, pricing is going to go up, that the low inventory situation here in San Diego is going to create a boom in the pricing. So let's see what's happening here. Median sales price, $865 through March. That's a new all-time high by $10,000. We have gone up from the bottom, which was December of 2023. We've gone up 7% so far. 7%. All right. We roll all the way back to May of 2020. This is where we were at basically right at the beginning of the pandemic. 585. We went up 46% to the peak in May of 2022, which was 855, previous record. The bottom of the market, the crash, as people were talking about, was 749. That was back in December of 2022. Apparently did not fix these dates. August of last year, 2023, we got back up to 850, slid back down to 805. This is a seasonal slide. All right. And from that point, we were back up to 865. All right. Here's the thing. There is nothing indicating this is going to slow down. This 7% that we've seen right here, that is the start of this. All right. So let's go ahead and see why. Why am I so confident in saying that? Let's look at the data. Let's see what it says. Months worth of inventory, right? So if we stop taking new listings right now, how long would it take us to sell everything that we currently have? This is a good graphic for San Diego. When we have more than 6 months worth of inventory, we have what's called a buyer's market. When we're between 4 to 6 months worth of inventory, we're in a pretty neutral market. The last strong buyer's market we had was in 2012. To give you an idea of San Diego, we've been pretty neutral through the mid-teens, but we got into the middle end of 2019, and we have dropped into a very, very strong seller's market. So to give you an idea, for the last 4 months of inventory here in San Diego County, December it was 1.5. The last 3 months, the entire first quarter of this year, has been 1.6 months worth of inventory. It is a very, very, very strong seller's market. The number of active listings. This is the statistic that is largely contributing to the pricing going up. There just aren't a lot of homes on the market for sale. We have seen this since 2021. So let me give you just a little bit of a brief idea of what's going on. If we extended this graph back to 2018 to 2016 to 2014 to 2012, we're going to see anywhere from 10 to 15,000 listings is the norm for the market here in San Diego. 10 to 15,000. We saw that in the middle of July, we dropped. And I remember that in 2020, we had about 4,500 listings. And I remember it was like, oh my gosh, we've never had this few listings. That's a lot of listings today. All right. So the bottom that we hit, the all-time bottom, December of 2021, 1,845 listings. We peaked out at about 5,350, call it, in July of 2022. We currently are at 2,840. That was what we had for active listings throughout the month of March. So we have popped around from, call it 2,700 to call it 2,950, call it just under 3,000, and now we're at about 2,840. This number of active listings is more than likely just going to bounce around. We might see it pop up over 3,000. We might see 31, 32, 3,300. We might even get to 3,500. That would be wonderful. We could even on an outside stretch get to 4,000 as we get to the peak of the market. But I need you to understand 4,000 listings right here. We should be between 10 to 14,000 listings. That's the normal, healthy San Diego market. That's what everyone refers to as the pre-pandemic market. All right. So we have not a lot of options. We got a whole bunch of people that want to buy. And guess what? We have that same number of people that are on the market right now times 2 or 3 that are sitting on the sidelines. They're waiting for the interest rates to come down. That's the competition that you guys and gals are going up against. So active listings, not a lot going on. Let's take a look at the next metric. This is also a really good indicator. New listings. New listings. All right, so this is rolling back to 2021. July was the peak, 4,568. June was the peak, 4,288. 2023, last year, June was the peak at 2808. Now this year, January was the peak at 2612. All right, we dropped down, we popped back up to 2527. All right, so this, I think we're going to see simply bounce around. I think it's going to trend up, probably without a doubt, through April, May, probably going to trend up through June. When interest rates start to come down relatively dramatically, we're going to probably see this number continuing to bounce around. We're going to see it continue to just bounce between, call it, let's say 2,500 and maybe 3,500. All right, and so here's the big thing. A lot of the homes that are coming onto the market right now are people that have to move. These are people that they have a job that they got, new job, they have to move to a different part of town. They got a new job and they're moving out of state. They got transferred in the military. Right? These are people that have to move. We do have a good number of people who are needing to move to get into a different school district, needing to move to be closer to work, whatever that is. But we also have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 times that number of people who want to move. They're just locked in to the property that they're currently at because the interest rates are high. We have somebody who has a 3,500 square foot home that wants to go down to 2,000, but the mortgage payment for the new one's going to be the same as it is for the bigger home. No one's going to do that. We have people that want to go from a smaller single family to a bigger single family. The interest rate is the monthly payment is making it too much, right? So we have all these people that are just sitting there waiting for these properties to come on. So waiting for the interest rates to come down. So when they come down and these people go, all right, it's now, we're going to go. They put their home on the market. They're going to buy another one. All right. So yes, their home is available, but guess what? There's a whole bunch of people that own a condo that want a townhome. There's a whole bunch of people that own a townhome that want an entry-level single-family home. There's a whole bunch of people that have an entry-level single-family home that want to buy a big home. And then it goes all the way back down to, all right, so you got a whole bunch of pent-up demand. We got a lot of pent-up demand. But the sellers, the overwhelming majority of them, are not putting their house on the market and leaving the area. So a house that comes on, it's going to consume another house. All right, so that's what we're looking at with the new listings. Let's get to the next one, pending sales. And this is the biggest number right here, right? The sales price, we've been telling you since the middle of last year it's going to go up. All right, that has not been a surprise. If you've listened to me talk for more than 30 seconds, you've heard me tell you that. All right, and this is the number right here that people were skeptical about. I don't know that that's true. I don't know that that's going to happen. How are people going to afford this? There was a lot of that type of question. This is the buyer activity. This is the buyer activity. So this is going from the high 7s to the low 7s. We've seen a 40% increase in buyer activity from the low point of the market, which was December of 2023. We saw a 12% increase in buyer activity just in the month of March, and there was nothing spectacular that happened with interest rates. This is buyer demand. This is the number of people that wrote an offer and got it accepted. Right? These are actual home buyers who went into escrow. This is not accounting for, the scary part of this, it's not accounting for the other 2 or 5 or 10 or 20 other families that wrote an offer that didn't get accepted. They're still out there and they're still writing offers. All right, that's what's going on with buyer demand right now. It's pretty insane out there. And as we get into the buying season, which is now, we're in April. This is the heart of the buying season, April, May, June. All right, this number, this increase of 40% is going to continue to increase. The number of pending sales is going to continue to increase. All right, from here, projections. This is actually talking about, the title's wrong on this. It should say data from last year, from 2023. So all the data is finalized. They got everything worked out and figured out. Basically, there was an 8.8% appreciation in San Diego throughout all of 2023. The total number was 8.8%. It was the highest number in all metropolitan cities in the entire United States. This data comes from Case Schiller. Look them up if you want. It's a company that does this stuff. They projected 6%. We hit 8.8. That was last year. That was with interest rates that went up to 7, went up to 8, stayed up in the mid to high to 7s. All right. What do we think is going to happen this year? All right. So now here's the part that I want you guys to really pay attention to. It's predicted that when rates get down to even in the 5.5% range, there will be a very quick 10% jump in pricing. one of the previous slides said we're going to get to the low sixes this year. So the 5.5, that could be in 2025. That could be in January, February, March of next year. That's why there's no indicator this is going to slow down. So if we go up another 5, 10, 15% this year alone in San Diego, from where we are now to the peak, 5, 10, 15%. That's on top of the 7% we've already gone up. All right, if we do that, that 10% jump that it's talking about, that's next year. That's going to be on top of that. All right. And so here's the thing. This is a conversation I've had 30, 40, 50 times in the last probably month. I've had a lot of people that says, this is crazy. We're getting priced out. The pricing's going up. We're going to come off the market. We're going to wait. We're going to save more money. There's people that have told me we don't have to buy. We're good where we're at. We don't have to move. We're going to save more money. The conversation has been, you need to keep up with the rate at which the market is increasing. Because if you can't save at that rate, you're going to get priced out of the market. So here's the actual real world data that we're looking at. For those waiting and saving, the average price went up $81,000 last year. That means you would have needed to have saved more than $81,000 that year to buy the same house that you could buy today. If you are not able to save at that rate, and looking at your pay, looking at your income, looking at investments, and saying I could save $90,000, are you going to? That's a good question. All right. And so if you're not able to save $81,000 or more, the house that you're going to buy is going to get smaller. The neighborhood you're looking in is going to change. That single family home is going to become a townhome. Carmel Valley is going to become Rancho Penasquitos. Right. That's what we're looking at in reality. All right. So what about the projections going forward? We got 4 big things. Once again, if you guys have any questions, type them in. Let me take a quick look at the chat and see what we got here. Okay. All right, got some more questions. I'm going to get to these here at the end. All right, first one, with interest rates, what do I think is going to happen in the next rest of April, let's say into May? We're going to see them bounce around. I think that a lot of the experts I'm talking to, a lot of conversations with Muhammad about this, multiple other lenders, multiple other people that are a lot smarter at this stuff than I am with the interest rates and what it's going to mean for mortgage rates. They're thinking you're going to see some drops. It could come down to the mid 6s. It could go back up to 6.7. It could drop into the 6.6 range, go back up to 6.9. All right. And the thing with this is that every time that happens, every time it has happened, let's say since, I don't know, December, you've seen what's happened to the pricing. Bunch of buyers come flooding onto the market. There's an article I read earlier today that said rates jump back up to 7 to start the month of April, and more buyers have left the market. What's going to happen when the rates come back down? Those buyers are coming back on, right? Buyer competition. We talked about that. We had that slide. It was up 40%. There are a lot of buyers out writing offers, trying to buy properties because they can see the writing on the wall. They see the 5, 10, 15% appreciation to the peak this year. They see another 10% increase next year when rates come down, and they realize that they want that for their family. That's what they want. Inventory. We're not going to see an accumulation of inventory. That's the thing, right? In order for us to see enough homes come onto the market to where it's going to flatten pricing out, to see where it could even, let's talk about dropping the price, we would need to go from 3,000 to 13,000 listings. We could double or triple. We could go to 6,000 or 9,000. 9,000 probably plateaus it. 13,000, we probably start to drop the price. We're at 3,000. We haven't had more than 3,500 in 2 years, right? And it's all the interest rate stuff. And that goes to the accumulation. It's what we spoke about when a seller puts their house on the market, they're going to consume another one. We would have to see a lot of people put a property on the market and they're not consuming another property, right? With rents being as high as there are, there's a lot of people that own investment properties, not big giant companies, but small mom and pops, families that own 1 or 2 rental properties because they're trying to save up money. They're trying to generate wealth for their family. They're not willing to sell these properties. They have $1 million worth of equity. That's fine. Market's not going anywhere. We know that. But I know that I'm charging another 10% on the $4,800 I'm charging them a month right now. And oh yeah, I have a 2.6% interest rate, and my monthly payment is $1,900 a month. Right? That's what we're running into here. Okay. With median sales price, I think with interest rates coming down, with the amount of buyer competition, with the low inventory, we're easily looking at another 10 to 15% increase through the from where we are now to the peak of the market. All right. So that's what I'm seeing. All right. We got some questions. We got a bunch of questions that came in here. Let me read through these. Hossein, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. Dan, let me read what you wrote here. Great question by Dan. Let me try to paraphrase this. So I did not see what the Fed president said today. So I'm going to just go with what you said. So I guess he's talking about 2 cuts instead of 3. Okay, that's worse for buyers. That's worse for the real estate market. All right, so potential of no interest rate cuts this year. If there's no interest rate cuts this year, I think we're just going to see the slow continued increase. I think it will mirror last year. So I think that we will go through the summer with buying. I think pricing will continue up through August. Remember, the pricing that we get in August, those were offers and deals negotiated in July. That's traditionally the end of the buying season. We would get up to July, and then we'll probably just see a slow, gradual slide back a little bit in the market. Last year, we gave back somewhere between 5 and 7% from August to December, and we've already gained that back plus some, right? And so that's, if there are no cuts, that's what I see happening. If I see 2 cuts only, I think that it's going to depend on when they are. One thing, if you really dig into the data that they're looking at, you look past the headline number, so the headline or the core number. When you really look at what goes into making that PPE or the PCI number where it is, there's some oddities to that, right? There's some strange things where it's like, where is this coming from? The Fed tends to try to drive their car looking in the rearview mirror, which is a major issue. Obviously, please don't do that in real life. But the Fed is looking behind at data. They're not looking at where we are and where it's going. And that is why there's a lot more people who are not happy with the way this is going with the Fed cutting rates. And when you look at the jobs, if you look at the last probably 12 to 14 months worth of job data, the number that initially comes out, which is the one that's reported, it gets all the press, the Fed reacts to that, those are adjusted for 2 more months after that. So the data that will come out, I think tomorrow is when the job numbers come out. A month from tomorrow, they're going to be adjusted, and then 2 months from tomorrow, they're going to be adjusted. Every single time that's happened for the last 12 to 14 months, it's been adjusted down, right? The number of jobs created drops dramatically, right? So when we get to the actual data 3 months after it's been posted or 2 months after it's been posted, the job numbers are dramatically less than what they're showing. So I don't know. We'll have to see. I don't think anything good is going to come out of no rate cuts. I think that it's just punishing people who are trying to buy a house, right? It's pricing is going to go up. The affordability is higher because of the interest rates. So I think it's a not good situation. But that's a good question. Let me look into that, and I'll shoot you a video or a text or something. Let me look into that. I'll get you more on that tomorrow. All right. So some other questions coming through here. All right. Janet, will we see more inventory this summer? We're going to see more homes coming on the market as we go through the traditional buying and selling season, right? There's people that don't have to live in a certain area because their children are out of school, because their kids have graduated high school, they've graduated college, they're off, they've started a family, and they don't have to live in an area. They can move from, a normal example of this that we're seeing a lot would be the Carmel Valley area where everybody wants to be there because of the schools. when the kids are out of school, they've all graduated. A lot of those families don't feel the need to stay in Carmel Valley. They'll move more coastal. They'll move to wherever. So we're going to see those homes coming on, but those people are also going to be buying homes. We also know that there will be people putting inventory on the market because they're wanting to move to go to a different school. So the thing is, I don't think we're going to see any accumulation of inventory. That's going from 3,000 or 3,500 to 5,000, 6,000, 7,000. I don't think we're going to see that until interest rates are definitively into the fives. At that point, maybe we see some of that. There will be more investors, more, mom and pops that own 1 or 2 or 3 homes, whatever that is. When they see that, hey, like the market's peaked, right? We have this influx and it's an accumulation of inventory. That's when those people are going to see, hey, like, we're peaked out on equity. We can either just keep this and we're going to have the money coming in if that's important to them, or, hey, it's time to cash out. Let's sell 1 of the 2, let's sell 2 of the 3, let's sell them all. Let's go do whatever. So I think that we're still a ways away from seeing an accumulation. All right, what else do we got? All right, Thomas, how is this sustainable? Man, I don't know. People have been asking that question for a couple years now. Like, they asked that at the end of 2021 and again before the rates jumped up in 2022. Is like, how are people affording this? San Diego is San Diego, right? It's good that we only have 1 runway, right? If we ever get a second runway at the airport, we build a big airport somewhere out in El Cajon or whatever. Like, this is going to get even worse for the people that live here, because now you're going to have more business coming here, which means more money, more homes going at higher prices, right? The money that we saw come in from Northern California in 2021, we're going to see that coming from all over the place as more bigger tech companies. But you have a lot of tech. You got you got Qualcomm, you got Google, you got Apple, you got all these companies that have moved here. You got biotech that's all kinds of crazy. You got the military, and then you have everybody else who just lives here in San Diego, and then you got everybody else who's been to San Diego and realized, like, geez, I want to live there. It was a cold day today, and it was 64, right? Like freezing winter day here for us. So how is it sustainable? I don't know, right? It's people have to have housing. People that there's 3 different types of people that I've come across that want to buy homes. There's those that can see down the road and they have vision. They can see, I need to own this home. I need to get the equity. This is how I'm going to build wealth for my family. This is my retirement. This is how I'm going to sell this property, and I'm going to go to a smaller one. I'm going to have money to pay for my kids' college. They see that. There's other people that just simply can't see past their nose, and they're like, I can't afford it. I don't want to do it. Renting's cheaper. There's an Instagram thing I put up, or there's some bogus article by MarketWatch that says renting is so much more affordable than cheaper, better for people than buying. And they're looking at an $1,800 rental payment or $3,600 mortgage payment, but they just kind of skipped all the other stuff of the value of owning a home. The people that can't see past their own nose and they're not willing to listen, they're going to rent, and that's okay. They're going to do their thing. Then there's the other people that third type of person is like, hey, I really want to freaking do this, but like, I just can't, I don't have the money. I can't do it. I need to get a job. Or not a job. I need a raise. I need to figure out another source of income. I need to, whatever that is. And they, at some point, will get to that. There's one family that I worked with last year that bought at what ended up being the bottom of the market, the very high end of their price range. They got a phenomenal deal. They probably paid a couple $100,000 under the market value of the home because the home was a hot mess, a big mess. They bought the property. They have been living in it for, I think they're coming up on 14, 15 months at this point. I was taking a look at my clients' properties to see how are they doing. Zillow is not an accurate estimation, but it's usually at least in the ballpark. That family has over $600,000 worth of equity in less than 14 months because they bought the property. Right? That is generational. That's the start of generational wealth. Right? That is where genuine wealth comes into play. People that own a home are 40% or 40 times, not 40%, 40 times wealthier than the people who are renting. All right, next one. Dana, thank you. Good question, Dana. You keep saying to the peak. What do I mean by that? Good question. The peak is this year, right? So we're going to go from here up to, let's call it August, right? Like from where we are to the peak pricing. There's always a peak, and then pricing always slides back down through the end of the year, through the holidays, right? December usually tends to be the most affordable month to buy a house. Also happens to be the month where there's the fewest number of homes on the market, right? And so that to the peak from where we are now to the peak is where probably August, maybe September. And there was another question that was kind of tying into this. All right. Jonathan and the elections. Okay, Jonathan, and your question about elections affecting this. Let's tie these two together. If normally you're going to see August, maybe September is the peak of the year, right? In terms of the sales price, right? Normally it's August because that's pricing that was negotiated in July, which is kind of the end of the real traditional buying season. A normal election year, presidential election year, we get into September and October and the market just slows down. It just kind of stagnates because everyone is like, oh my gosh, we're into this crazy election cycle. Half of the country thinks the world's going to come to an end if that guy wins. The other half thinks the world's going to come to an end if the other guy wins, right? And the world's still here. We're still all doing what we're doing. But that's the traditional pause, if you will, September, October during a presidential election year. November in a regular year is where we start to see it's less listings are coming on. Some of the listings that have been on are coming off. We get to that Thanksgiving timeframe, market just slides into the end of the year. No one wants to try to be buying or moving necessarily through the holidays. All right. So what are we looking like with the peak? The peak this year probably going to be August would be my guess. If interest rates keep coming down, now I think that can change. If we have the first cut in June, or if it gets pushed back to July, the second cut could come in August. It could come in September, right? We start to have a situation where now we got a whole bunch of buyers that all of a sudden the rates drop down to 5.97 in the middle of September. And guess what? The market's jumping massively, right? So I don't know. We're going to have to see. But to the peak, probably August, could be September, could even be October if rates are coming down through that time period. I don't think the Fed wants to be seen as trying to influence an election, so I don't know what's going to happen there. But to the peak is the high point of the market. So kind of combining those two answers. And a couple more that came in. Dan, I'm going to come back to yours. I just saw you put that in. All right, let's do two more because we're getting about over. All right, how quickly will rates drop when the Fed cuts rates? Good question. I don't know. I will have to ask about that, and I will get back to you guys. I think that once the Fed makes that, let's say they make the first cut in June, I would imagine it would be within a day or two. Every time we have some sort of announcement from the chairman, Powell, the market reacts same day, next day. So if we see an interest rate cut on June 13th or whatever it is, I'd say by the 14th, assuming that it's a work day, business day, I think you're going to see rates drop. I think that you're going to see a lot of lead up to it. I know the buyers I'm working with, anytime that there's an event like this, I'm telling them, you guys need to be ready to go, right? But majority of my buyers are already ready to go, but there are a handful of them who are still needing to wait for something to happen before they're ready to go. It's like, get your ducks lined up, because when that thing drops, it goes like this and pricing is going to follow, right? So that's a good question. And Dan, your last one, any new builds? This is more San Diego specific question. New build communities along the 56. Not any of massive size, but I'll have to take a look. There haven't been any that I've seen. But we'll talk about that again another time. So, all right, guys, that's what I'm looking at. Next steps for you guys. What do you got? Those of you who I have not spoken with, if you're thinking about buying, scan the QR code on the left. Sellers, scan that one on the right. Buyers, we need to talk about finding you properties that are not publicly available. We need to talk about the rate relief program. That is really dependent on your purchase price, but let's discuss it. And then the biggest conversation I've been having over the last week or two has been, how am I going to beat the 2 or 5 or 10 or 20, earlier this year, 47 or 49 other offers we're going up against? The strategies that I have, 55 plus of them, not age, but the number of strategies. My job is to basically make it that you're really competing against 2, maybe 3 offers. It's the other ones that are actually relevant. The other 10 or 20 or 30 or 40, like, who cares, right? If you're going to try to come in under market value because you just don't think the home's worth that, I'm not worried about your offer. You don't matter. All right. Sellers, if you are thinking about, hey, I really do want to move up, I want to move down, I want to move to a different area, starts with the home valuation, strategies to buy and sell at the same time. That's a conversation I'm having with a lot of sellers at this point. And then obviously listing price strategies. How do we price this home to maximize your equity, to put you in the best position to buy the next one? So that's what I got for you guys this evening. We made it at 5:36, so 36 minutes, not too bad. All right, that's all I got. If you guys have questions that pop up this evening, tomorrow, email them to me, text them to me. I will personally reply to them. Buyer's QR code on the left, seller's QR code on the right. There will be a replay coming more than likely tomorrow. If not, it'll be this weekend or Monday. But we're going to get you the replay. That way, if you want to go through this again, you want to re-listen to something, you want to have your spouse or your partner listen to it, have it available to you guys, or if you want to share it with a family member or friend, I would be very appreciative. So, all right, guys, have a wonderful rest of the evening. Appreciate you being here.